Hey, I'm Hannah Weiss, the Director of Education at the Science Museum of Western Virginia, and this is my last moment of STEM. That's right. I said that it's my last moment of STEM. See, I am leaving the Science Museum. My last day is actually Friday, potentially the day this video goes up. And it has been a crazy, wonderful, amazing, terrific ride. I have been here the last 6 years, and over that time I have really gotten to do some amazing things. And especially this last year and a half when I've been on the kind of weekly YouTube cycle, I've gotten to fulfill some Miss Frizzle dreams. But adventure calls, and so I am moving on to the next cool thing. But I wanted to bring you one last moment. And as I was looking for things to talk about, I realized there's a lot of neat stuff happening in science right now. The Voyager 2, something I've actually talked about on Moment of STEM, is firmly in interstellar space. And interstellar space is weird. Or just recently, there was cookie dough in an oven sent into space. And not just because astronauts have cravings for freshly baked cookies, but to see how they bake. And all of this is really, really cool, but didn't feel right. Because I really wanted to end this the way that I started it, with dinosaurs. And then I remembered some really weird research that came out in 2014, so right around in my first year at the museum. So this week, for my final moment of STEM, we're going to talk about that time they glued tails to chickens. So researchers and people in general basically agree that dinosaurs are birds, which is really, really awesome, especially as paleontologists are looking for ways to learn more about how dinosaurs lived. A lot of times they can look to birds, and that works for a lot of things. But one of the ways it doesn't is in how they move. And that's because birds, like chickens, one of the probably closest relatives to T-Rexes, walk really strangely. If you think about the way most bipedal, two-footed or two-legged organisms walk, they tend to swing out their hips. It's actually even the way that we walk. But chickens tend to keep their hips really still and move out from their knees. And paleontologists and researchers weren't sure if this was because chickens are weird or if that's because that's what dinosaurs did. But they also wondered if it might have to do with a very big change between chickens and dinosaurs. If you compare a T-Rex to a chicken, one of the big differences, and I realize there are like a ton of differences, but one of the big ones is that T-Rexes have this really long, heavy tail, and chickens don't. Which changes something very important. It changes the center of mass. The center of mass is basically how we balance. When people are pregnant, actually, their center of mass changes, and the way they walk changes as a result. So researchers thought that the reason that chickens and dinosaurs might walk differently might have to do with that tail. So they decided to study it by sticking some tails on chickens, which didn't work very well because adult chickens tended to just kind of fall when they had those tails on. So instead, they used modeling clay to put a wooden kind of stretch of like a dowel on the back of a chicken that weighed about 50% of its body weight, because that's roughly what they think dinosaurs' tails weighed. And then as the chicken grew, they changed that weight so it continued to match that 15%. And when they reached adulthood, they recorded them. So just to kind of recap, we have researchers putting what amounts to a clay plunger on the backs of chickens as they grow up to mimic tails. And then they recorded videos of these chickens walking, which is just one of the most hilarious sentences in research that I ever could have come across. But the thing is, they noticed that the way these chickens walked actually changed. They walked a lot closer to the way that most animals with two legs walk than the way chickens usually walk, which is, well, hilarious. And if you'd like to check out any of those wonderful videos, read more of the science, or check out some of the other science I talked about, you can read any of the links below. Otherwise, I'm Hannah Weiss from the Science Museum of Western Virginia. And this has been a truly truly amazing ride that I'm so glad to have gotten to share with you. I don't know what comes for me next, but keep an eye on the Science Museum because I'm sure they're going to continue to do wonderful, amazing things. And if you'd like to see where I am, you can check me out on Instagram at Shoestring Science. Other than that, I started all of these videos by really wanting a fluffy dinosaur, and I guess it turns out I actually just wanted a chicken.